Welcome to Fencing Buddies podcast. I'm Alex, your former foil fencer and current youth coach, and with me today is the brilliant fencing analyst and sports scientist, Sarah. Today we're diving into a super interesting article about the prevalence of left-handers in antagonistic sports, and what it means for fencers like us.
Thanks, Alex. This article really caught my attention because the topic of left-handers in fencing is something we coaches and fencers talk about all the time anecdotally. It's great to see some deep, data-driven analysis beyond just counting lefties.
Absolutely. We've all seen it, walk into any fencing hall, and it seems like there are way more left-handers than you'd expect from the general population. The article confirms that, especially for épée and foil, right?
Exactly. It confirms that initial observation of overrepresentation. But the real meat of this study is its distributional analysis. Instead of just saying, 20% of fencers are left-handed, they looked at where those left-handers sit in the rankings. They found a left-skewed distribution, meaning the higher up the performance tiers you go, the more left-handers you find. That's a huge difference from just a uniform overrepresentation.
That's super interesting. So it's not just that they're there, but they're disproportionately dominating the top spots. I definitely see that in my youth fencers sometimes. The lefties seem to pick up tactical things faster or just have an edge on timing. What does that specifically imply, then?
It strengthens the idea of a genuine performance advantage for left-handers in these specific sports. The article delves into two main hypotheses for why: the negative frequency dependent advantage or NFDA, and the innate superiority or IS hypothesis. NFDA suggests right-handers are just less familiar with lefty actions, giving the lefties an element of surprise. IS, on the other hand, proposes left-handers have some inherent neurological or physiological edge.
Okay, the NFDA, the unfamiliarity argument, makes a lot of intuitive sense. A righty just fences a lefty less often. But the article raises a pretty strong counterargument to that, especially at elite levels. It points out that top fencers should be exposed to more lefties in competition and training, right?
Precisely, Alex. The authors argue that at elite levels, fencers are more likely to encounter left-handed opponents in tournaments, and elite teams actively train against them. They even mention the Paris 2024 Olympics, where many medal-winning teams had left-handers specifically for sparring. This challenges the idea that unfamiliarity alone can explain the advantage at the very highest echelons.
That's a game changer for how we think about coaching. If familiarity isn't the primary driver for elite righties, then the innate superiority theory becomes much more compelling. So, it could be something about how a lefty's brain is wired.
Potentially. The IS hypothesis highlights functional specializations of the right hemisphere, which primarily controls the left hand. This hemisphere is dominant for visuospatial, spatiotemporal, and visuomotor processing. In a fast, precision-based sport like fencing, where timing and distance are everything, more efficient processing in these areas could provide a critical, subtle advantage. There's also talk of left-handers showing greater recruitment of both hemispheres for motor control.
The brain specialization part, that's wild. So it's not just about a fencer's physical ability, but how their brain is literally wired differently, influencing their timing and distance perception and execution in a bout. That's huge for strategy.
Exactly. A fraction of a second's advantage in processing or executing a parry or a riposte can mean the difference between a hit and a miss. The article points to studies suggesting left-handers might have an edge in precision-based aiming tasks, which is fundamentally what a lunge or a flesh in foil or épée is.
I noticed the article also broke down the findings by weapon. Saber didn't show the same strong advantage for lefties as foil and épée, especially for men. Why do you think that is? Is saber just too fast for the brain advantage to kick in?
That's a great question, and the article touches on it. It suggests discipline-specific features play a role. Each weapon imposes unique demands on motor control, has different target areas, and involves distinct fighting characteristics. Saber is often more explosive, less about intricate blade contact and precision point control compared to foil and épée. The spatiotemporal pressures might be different, and perhaps the innate superiority, advantages are more pronounced where precision and complex visuospatial processing are paramount.
Fascinating stuff. So, for us coaches and fencers, this means acknowledging that lefties really do have a measurable edge, especially at the highest levels of foil and épée. We need to actively incorporate more diverse training to counter it, not just rely on occasional exposure. And maybe, lefties, lean into that innate brain power.
And for researchers, it means diving deeper into why this advantage exists. Is it primarily the unfamiliarity factor that elite training can overcome? Or are there truly inherent neurological or physiological differences that give left-handers a built-in head start in these high-speed, precision sports? It's a hugely important area for understanding human-handedness and athletic potential.
Thanks everyone for listening to Fencing Buddies podcast. Until next time, keep your distance and stay sharp.